Are you curious about how you could hire an artist to work on your game? How much does it cost? How you should do it? Where should you go? Well, this week I'm gonna talk to you about all of these. Hello everyone, I'm Ombarus and welcome to another episode. For those who don't know, I'm a programmer and not an artist. And I'm saying that because I've been looking on the internet for other indie devs that do stuff solo, and a lot of them seem to be doing everything from programming to marketing to art. And I think I can do programming and I'm gonna try my best at marketing, but I'm just not sure about the art. I want my game to look professional and I don't think I have the skills to be able to make it look that high a level. So I decided to go on forums, Discord channel, Reddit, Fivers, and I wanted to try to look for an artist that could at least get me started on the look of my game. The first thing to keep in mind is that if you were to bring some partner to work on your game alongside with you and he's an amazing artist, he's going to be taking care of all the art direction and everything. You don't have to worry about anything. But if you're going to hire someone on the internet, then it's a little bit different. He's going to be working on a per asset basis, which means you already need to have a very good idea of where you want to go with the art. So you need to have like example of stuff you like. You need to think about the size, the texture, the colors you want to use in your game. And ideally, you have to have all of this and also the list of all the assets the person is going to have to make before you even start thinking about hiring someone. For example, I knew my assets were 128 by 128 pixel and I knew how many assets I wanted. I had the spreadsheets already with all the mockup assets I needed. And one thing that really helps is also to have like a working demo or some videos or screenshots that you can show the artist, because it's going to really help him decide how you want your game to look and feel, and it's going to help him design the colors and everything to work with your game. In my case, it seems everything went well, but the second thing you need to be aware of is that you should know what kind of things you want to put in a contract that's going to be written and agreed on by both you and the artist. There's a couple of things you have to make sure that you specify in the contract. It doesn't need to be like something super official, but you have to have agreed with it. And ideally, personally, I would want it to be at least by email so that we each have a copy of this. The first thing I wanted to add in this contract was that I wanted a full license, forever and impossible to remove, that grant me all the rights to the assets that the artist was going to make for me. That might seem obvious, but it's not. If the author of the sprite doesn't directly give you full control of the art asset, you could be in some trouble. So in my case, I wanted the right to be able to completely modify it, change it, copy it, give it to people, change it any way I wanted, or make modification to it, or even use it for something completely different than the project I was asking him to work on. The next thing you want to think about is the NDA. As an indie developer, I have absolutely no problem with the artist talking about my game or spreading the word. Actually, I like it. But, some companies wouldn't want you to talk about certain stuff. But also, for some reason, if you don't want the artist to be talking about the art he made for you or something, then you have to have this in writing. You also have to make sure how the artist wants to be credited. Maybe he doesn't want you to use his real name, maybe he wants to use a nickname, maybe he doesn't even want to be shown on the credit, maybe he needs a credit page and he wants to make sure his name is somewhere on the game. All of this should be written down. Then, the other thing I saw that you need to make clear is what kind of format you want to receive the files. So an artist could send you a JPEG, but that won't do for a video game, in my opinion. You need it at least to be a PNG if you want something for like a sprite. But ideally, you want like the original source. You don't want just the guy to send you like a 3D Max exported model or something. You want the actual 3D Max file with all the stuff. And if you're making like an artwork or something, you probably want the original Photoshop file, even if you don't have Photoshop, and just in case you need to give it to someone else who's going to work on it later, you want to make sure you have the file with all the layers and everything so that you can make small changes to it without having to ask the artist again. And what happened if the artist just deleted the file because the contract was over? You want to make sure you have the original source for everything. And then, of course, you have to talk about the time frame, both for the artist, but also something that might not be always expected, the time frame for when you're going to pay the artist. So how much, of course, but also when. Is it going to be at the beginning, half, at the end, half? Is it going to be like a week after the artist has given you all the assets? Is it going to be at the middle of the project? All these things should be discussed. And then finally, the last thing you should probably think about is how many revision you want, because it's pretty rare in what I've seen that everything is perfect from the get-go. There's always going to be small modification you want to make to your assets, what the artist did. Maybe you misunderstood, maybe he misunderstood, maybe there was some disagreement, maybe you changed your mind, you liked blue but now you wanted red. Well, is that included in the price that the artist is paying you, or is that something on top you have to add? And it can be a lot of different things. I mean, you could have like a minimum number of revision included in the price, or you could agree that any revision is going to be on top at a certain rate per hour, or you could agree that there's no revision or that there's as many revisions as you want, but it should be something that's in writing. So now you know what you want and you know how you want it. So the next step is to find an artist with the skill sets you want, and to do that you need to find where they hang out. And for me, I knew I wanted pixel art, so I went online and I looked for places where pixel artists post their stuff, communicate, and I found Pixel Joint, which is a forum with a lot of really great pixel art, and I found a Discord server about pixel art, and I also found some subreddit with a bunch of pixel art stuff. The subreddit wasn't open for commission, they didn't want any advertisement, paid or not, so I didn't post anything there. But the Discord server and the Pixel Joint forum had a section for posting paid commission, so the next step was just crafting a beautiful little advertisement for my game and asking for people who might be interested. And I would highly suggest you go into the paid section and not like the revenue share or the free work for hire stuff, because believe it or not, artists usually need to eat also, and they will be much more professional and much more forthcoming with you if you're willing to pay. And honestly, it's not that expensive. Most of the artists I've talked to were willing to work for something very reasonable. Now, before we continue, I just want to put a quick disclaimer. It was my first time hiring someone, and I'm sharing this experience with you because I think it could be useful for other people, because they might not want to go through all the trouble I went through to figure out everything. But it doesn't mean if it went well for me, it's gonna go well for you. So just make sure that you stay professional, honest, and that you reply quickly to all inquiries and demand. And this way, I think you're gonna attract other people that are also professional, honest, and will work quickly. And it goes for both sides if you're the artist or the person who wants to hire the artist. This way, things will just go much more smoothly. That said, the next step is just to post your ad and wait for a reply. It took maybe 3 or 4 days for me to get some replies, but I got 4 or 5. And even up to 1 week later, I was still getting some people contacting me. Even after I closed the ad and I said it was already a filled position, I was still getting some people contacting me. But I just told them that the position was already filled. And in the ad, I hadn't written how much I was going to pay because I honestly had no idea. But I did show what kind of art I wanted and described the game I wanted and gave my name and information and mentioned that I was willing to pay, just didn't know how much. And honestly, choosing was really, really difficult because all of these people obviously had way better art and portfolio than I could ever dream of. And I just didn't know how to choose because they all looked like good artists. So which one should I pick? So the first thing I did is everyone who contacted me, I tried to look them up. I know it's a little bit stalker, but I wanted to find out how professional and honest they were. So I looked them up on Twitter, on DeviantArt, or on Facebook. and just tried to see what kind of stuff they posted and what kind of comments they were writing and if there were people complaining about them online or something like that. It didn't really turn out anything in the end. Everyone was just great. Remember when I said that you shouldn't hire someone to do your art direction? Well, what if, like me, you're not quite sure where you want to go with your art direction? So that's where I got the idea of asking all of the potential artists for one sprite of a spaceship. So that way I would have really something common to compare. Of course, I had to pay for these, so it did cost me quite a bit of money, about $100 Canadian, for sprites that I might not even end up using in the game. But I think it was worth it because it's really what helped me the most make the decision of who I was going to hire. And after that, telling the artists that they were not picked was also pretty difficult. I mean, after I've asked them to do a sprite and kind of promised them that there would be more afterwards, telling them, sorry, you weren't picked, was really hard. But surprisingly, most of them took it really well, and some of them even thanked me, saying that a lot of people just never talk to them again when they're not picked. So they appreciated that I took the time to tell them. So that was a nice plus. So the guy I chose was Spyrus Contis, and I'll put a link in the description to his Pixel Joint page. And if you want to hire him, I recommend it. When I sent him an email, I told him what I wanted. I said I didn't have any contract template, but he said he had one, so he sent me over his contract template, and it had all the points I mentioned above that I thought were important, so we ended up just signing this, agreeing on the terms, and then we connected on Discord, and we chat a little bit about what I wanted, how I wanted it, and I sent him a document with all the assets I needed and a description of what they were, how they worked in game, and what my idea for this sprite was to see what he would do. And then he asked me a couple of questions. We went back and forth. He sent me over the course of the next couple of weeks a few assets every couple of days that I could slowly, surely integrate in the game. And it was nice because since he was sending it to me a couple at a time, it gave me the time to integrate them, test them in the game, see how they looked, and if something was a little bit wrong, it didn't look quite right, then it gave me a chance to talk to him about it, and so that the next sprite he would make would be a little bit better, or even if he could revise sometimes some of the stuff. I didn't ask him to do that many revisions. Sometimes I would ask him to maybe change the colors a little or make it a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. But I tried to keep the revision to a minimum. I just didn't feel right to ask him to redo a whole sprites. The end result is mostly good. Seriously, some of this stuff is just so impressive. I can hardly believe it. Look at this sun. It's so gorgeous. And I mean, even the planets look awesome. There's some of the assets that I'm not quite convinced, but honestly it's probably just because I didn't know what I wanted, so I gave him carte blanche and he gave me something. Maybe it's not exactly what I wanted, but since I didn't know what I wanted, I couldn't have explained it to him well, so I'll have to use these for now. Maybe eventually I'll figure out what I want. And the spaceships, they look so beautiful. I was hoping for a little bit more difference maybe between some of the alien races, but seriously, even zoomed in, they look perfect. Even when you can see all the pixels, they look just amazing. So I'm really happy with the result. Now for the juicy parts. The price quote I got were fairly similar. Most of the artists told me that it would be anywhere between $15 to $25 per hour, and a few artists told me that it took them anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour and a half to do one sprite. So in the end, the price per asset and the price per hour were about the same, $15 to $25. And with Spyrus Contis, I decided to go with a whole amount for the 31 sprite I asked him. And this came to about $16 per sprite. And I know I'm going to need more sprite later on, but I figured at least now I have a starting point. I have something uniform, something that works together. And then what I can do is just maybe touch up these sprites, merge them together, do some Frankenstein stuff to make more assets for now. And then when I have another 20-30 sprites I need, and maybe I have some more money to spend on art, then I can hire Spiros again to do even more art for my game. And so that's it for this week. That's how I hired someone to do my art for me. And I hope it was useful for you guys, because I really wish I had some information like that when I started to give me an idea of how much and how to hire someone and where to go to hire them. So I'll put all this information in the description below, and if you liked it, if it was useful to you, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment, and see you guys in my next episode. Bye!